Good morning, sunshine. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Did I just start to sing on Facebook Live? No, I did not. It's quiet Sunday morning. Shh. Just getting my coffee. One last final rest day before we head into the new running training schedule. So how about yesterday, huh? Beautiful out. It was so nice. It was the day I've been hoping for and vocalizing, wishing we would have a nice, sunny, warm day. And we had one. Yay! I recharged every battery, every internal battery I have. It was so amazing. Somebody's on. Somebody's saying hi. Good morning, Karina. Hi. Thanks for joining me. I have some really fun stuff to talk about today. So I'm glad you're here. Go hang out in the living room. So I'm back inside again today. I was outside yesterday for the feed, which was cool. But I'm back inside today because it's back to being cold and rainy and gray. I mean, I guess it's not that cold, but whatever. It's more comfortable inside. Mary Jo, hi. Yay. The crew. Melissa, good morning. Hi. Glad you joined us again. Oh, Meredith, hi, good morning. Happy Sunday. Yes, Sunday. What is it, the 26th? What is today? Yep. Sunday, April 26th. Star date. Sorry. Yeah, so yesterday, finally had that day I've been hoping for a while now and lamenting over not having this beautiful sunny day that I could actually sit outside and read and sit in the sun. I actually got a sunburn, which is crazy. Not very responsible of me. I would have put sunblock on had I even thought that was a possibility, but it was nice. So I went, first I did the live feed outside yesterday, which was nice, and then I said, you know what, it's going to be a nice day. I am not going to be inside today, even though this house needs to be cleaned. We have no groceries. I just went, nope, that's such a tomorrow. And I looked at the forecast, and today was supposed to be exactly what it is. So I'm like, yeah, all that's happening on Sunday because I'm going to be outside. And so that's what I decided to do. I went for, after the live feed, I did a little more meditation, and I went out and did a 5-mile trail run at Casey Park here in Ontario. I could have kept doing that all day. It was just beautiful out. And then stopped and got some Dunkin', got my son some donuts and stuff, and me some coffee, and took a shower and went outside and read. Pretty much the majority of the rest of the day, just kind of brought Tank outside with me, got my porch chair and went out and sat in the lawn and just kind of, I finished my Viktor Frankl book. Well, actually I listened to Cuomo, which I'm going to talk about that in a second too, which I do every day. Then had some lunch and then went outside for a while, I guess. Ended up being a while, and I finished that Viktor Frankl book. So probably the fastest I've ever read a book. Within a week, within 5 days, I think I was done with it. And it's just an amazing book, and actually started on one of my Thomas Merton books that I bought as well. So I had just an incredible day yesterday. Oh, and our favorite local Chinese restaurant opened back up again. They were closed for the longest time. I was so bummed. I'm like, I hope that's not because, you know, ridiculous people thinking it's Chinese food, coronavirus, whatever. But anyway, they reopened yesterday, so we totally got Chinese food last night. Because I don't have any food in the house. I got to go grocery shopping today. I get to go grocery shopping today. So I got Chinese last night too. So it was just a perfect day. Anyway, so that's funny because it's like we always get like people think ROCovery Fitness, you guys are all into fitness and nutrition. I have probably one of the worst diets of anybody I know. So again, watch what your misconceptions might be. I know a lot of us need to work on our nutrition, but we're all a work in progress, so it's fine. So don't feel like we have this thing going on. Brendan, hey guys, oh my goodness, so many awesome people on this morning. Oh, nice. Melissa, that's awesome. You saw a rainbow yesterday? That's so cool. Yeah, so a really good day yesterday. I did what I intended to do. Once I saw what the weather was going to be, I did what I intended to do. It wasn't my plan to do that yesterday, but I just kind of played it by ear and just took it easy. It was just a little gift to me to just kind of take it easy and recharge, and that was nice. So I finished the Viktor Frankl book, which was absolutely amazing, and I most certainly will read it again, just to recapture some of the things that he talks about. And it's interesting because after he gets done talking about his experiences in the concentration camp and his ultimate liberation from it, he goes into this form of psychoanalysis or psychotherapy that he founded called logotherapy, and logos is Latin for meaning. So it's all based around because in his experience with the concentration camps, basically, people would die when they no longer had hope. So he said that, you know, most commonly the death rates would spike between Christmas and New Year's because people would have hope that before the next Christmas came, they would be liberated, like it would be over. And when that wouldn't happen, people would give up hope. So they would ultimately, you know, if they were their immune systems would deplete, their whatever it was that they were suffering from as far as illness goes would take over and eventually kill them, because they had lost hope. So his whole the logotherapy is based on our search for meaning, right? Man's search for meaning, our giving our why, right? Like man can, he quotes Nietzsche in saying that man can endure any how, given if given the right why, which is, so that's your meaning, the meaning for doing certain things or your purpose, right? So that's what the book's all about, man's search for meaning, right? And it was so cool because the second part of it, after he's done all that, he goes through the whole, yes, it wouldn't it be Hanukkah? Yeah, but he mentions Christmas specifically, between Christmas and New Year's. I don't know why he mentions that specifically, but yeah. Again, around the same time frame. So between that and New Year's is when the death rates would spike. That's an interesting point, actually. I'm not sure why he mentions Christmas specifically, but within that week. So he talks about, you know, the search for meaning, and there's one part where he discusses what logotherapy is neither teaching nor preaching. The role played by a logotherapist is that of an eye of a specialist rather than a painter. So rather just trying to get a wider, The logotherapist's role consists of widening and broadening the visual field of the patient so that the whole spectrum of potential meaning becomes conscious and visible to him. By declaring that man is responsible and must actualize the potential meaning of his life, again, by choices, right? So if everything else is taken away from us, the one thing that we have, that nobody has the ability to take away from us, is our choice, right? And our choice to find meaning in what we do. I wish to stress that the true meaning of life is to be discovered in the world rather than within the man or his own psyche, as though it were a closed system. I have termed this constitutive characteristic the self-transcendence of human existence. Sorry. It denotes the fact that that being human always points and is directed to something or someone other than oneself, be it a meaning to fulfill or another human being to encounter. The more one forgets himself by giving himself to a cause to serve or another person to love, the more human he is and the more he actualizes himself, which is called self-actualization. Not an attainable aim at all, for the simple reason that the more one would strive for it, the more he would miss it. In other words, self-actualization is possible only as the side effect of self-transcendence. So the more we look for ourselves, the more we can't find that, right? So in losing that, losing ourselves and losing our interest, our self-interest, we then find ourselves, which I thought was really, really cool. And then he goes through, how do you find the meaning? According to logotherapy, we can discover this meaning in life in 3 different ways. 1, by creating a work or doing a deed. 2, by experiencing something or encountering someone. And 3, by the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. And he says unavoidable suffering because if we choose to go through suffering that's avoidable, then that's just masochism, and that's not. But if our suffering is unavoidable, we're forced to take an attitude toward that suffering, right? And so that's how we can create or assign meaning to our lives through that suffering. And he goes through the obviously creating a work or doing a deed doesn't need to be explained. He goes through the meaning of love, which he utilized thinking about his wife getting through the concentration camps. But then he talked about the meaning of suffering and reassigning that meaning, right? So he talks about a doctor, an example of an elderly practitioner that consulted him because of severe depression. And he was depressed because his wife passed away, right? Which is not uncommon. You hear about it all the time. People married for 50 years or what have you. One dies, and then shortly thereafter, the other dies because they've lost their meaning, right? So he goes through how he worked with this gentleman, and he said, and he reframed it. So I love reframing. Some of my favorite people in this life are people who reframe really, really well. So he reframes it, and he asks the doctor, what would have happened? So he says, well, I refrained from telling him anything, but instead confronting him with the question, what would have happened, doctor, if you had died first and your wife would have had to survive you? And he says, oh, well, for her, this would have been terrible, how she would have suffered. Whereupon I replied, you see, doctor, such a suffering has been spared her, and it was you who have spared her suffering. To be sure, at the price that now you have to survive and mourn her. He said no word, but shook my hand and calmly left the office. In some way, suffering ceases to be suffering at that moment. It finds a meaning, such as the meaning of a sacrifice. So really just changing the meaning behind, his suffering. So it became less self-interest, right? So it wasn't a woe is me anymore. It was a, well, gosh, I'm going through this because, to spare her from having to do that. And it completely changed his outlook on that suffering. And so I talked about a little bit. So I watch Cuomo every day, and I don't want to get political, but I watch his addresses every day. And then when I read this later on in the afternoon, I went, oh my gosh, Cuomo employed logotherapy during his address yesterday when he talked about, let's look at what would have happened if we didn't do or if we weren't doing what we're doing right now, right? So like each of us retrospectively have saved thousands and thousands of lives, and that's not overstating it. That's not being dramatic about it. That's an actual statistical fact, that the projections were hundreds of thousands more being affected by the COVID virus, right? And each of us taking a responsibility and doing what we're doing, suffering. I don't want to minimize, what everyone's doing right now. But he reframed, like for all the people that watch his daily addresses, reframed for everyone and had a mass logotherapy session yesterday and said, this is what you've done. This is what we've all accomplished together. And reframe that suffering to now giving everyone a meaning behind why I've done it. I didn't do it for me, right? I did it for hundreds of thousands of other people who, may not have survived that virus. And that's why we continue to do that. And I think that's what he's trying to do now, is just encourage people to continue this, because as you look out at examples across the world of other areas, like I just read an article on Japan yesterday where, they were sure they were done with it and reopened everything, and, it just came back twice as bad. So just to try and encourage people to keep their focus on that meaning, on that purpose. Why are we doing this, right? That's logotherapy, to give it, to illustrate the meaning, or or to maybe emphasize the meaning behind why we're doing what we're doing. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm like, hey, Cuomo knows logotherapy. And then he talks about different... So logotherapy is also about actualizing potential, right? So everyone is faced with the same choices. We can respond, like life is choices. Again, this is what I've been talking about for the longest time, is that, we can have everything stripped away from us. You can have, the prisoners in the concentration camps were, they couldn't even keep their hair, right? You can have everything stripped from you, but you still have the power to choose how you respond to that, right? How I respond to any given situation is still my choice, and that cannot ever, nobody can take that away from you. So how do I choose? How do I choose to respond to it? And he goes through it's really interesting how he says, as you get older, the tendency is to envy younger people because they have all this potential ahead of them, right? But we as older individuals have actualized that potential already. So we have those things written, those things are done, those things are, we've got those things we can look back on and either learn from or take pride in the way we've actualized those potential decisions, right? And then do better next time if we need to, or really take pride in the fact that we did well there. He talks about one doctor that was in Austria who just had started working for the SS and was just he was evil incarnate, right, is how Frankl puts it. But he made a choice to change. At some point in his life, he made a different choice. And he became, as one person saw him in his last dying days. So this is the story of Dr. J, the mass murderer of Steinhoff. But then he met somebody who spent his last dying days, who said he was the greatest comrade he had ever met. So it was about the choices that he made, and we're all, as long as we have breath, able to change the choices that we make, right? To make a different choice. And he closes, this was the original closing the book. There's a postscript from 1984 and beyond, but this was the original ending of the book. And it talks about the human condition, and psychiatry rehumanized. What he becomes within the limits of endowment and environment he has made out of himself. In the concentration camps, for example, in this living laboratory and on this testing ground, we watched and witnessed some of our comrades behave like swine, while others behave like saints. Man has both potentialities within himself. Which one is actualized depends on decisions, but not on conditions. Right? They all had the same conditions. It was really a matter of choice, which of those potentialities were actualized. Our generation is realistic, for we have come to know man as he really is. After all, man is that being who invented the gas chambers of Auschwitz. However, he is also that being who entered those gas chambers upright with the Lord's Prayer on his lips. That was the original ending of the book. And then he has some postscripts and things like that. And one interesting postscript I want to read, and I'll stop reading from the book, but the end of the he wrote this postscript in 1984. And the end of the postscript, it says, "So let us be alert in a twofold sense." So this is in 1984, he writes this. "Since Auschwitz, we know what man is capable of. And since Hiroshima, we know what is at stake." And I thought that was really powerful as well. Because collectively we can do some pretty atrocious things as human beings. But anyway, I finished that book yesterday, and then I went on to the Thomas Merton book as well. It was really, it was a good day. So overall. So if anyone has any extra time on their hands and you want to actualize your potentiality for expanding your mind, I suggest that book. It's really good. I'm surprised it took me this long in my life to read it. And like I said, I'll probably read it again. So I'm going to read your comments. Then today I'm going to do all the things that I put off yesterday, because now it's a good day to be inside. I get to go grocery shopping. I get to clean my house. I have a little work I got to do today. So I'm going to do that so I can turn it in early, which is nice. Good morning, Sue. Wow, there's a lot of comments in here I missed. Brendan's on. Good morning. I sang already earlier. If you want to see that, you can go back to the beginning of the video. Did his wife survive? No, actually, sadly enough, his wife and their unborn child both died in a concentration camp. He never actually ended up having any children, and he called this book and some of his other books his brainchild. It's interesting, but in the afterword and the closing of the book, it goes through sort of just a biography of his life a little bit more. And he, after the war, stayed in Austria because he saw the need for staying there and working with liberated camp individuals, that he saw that there was going to be a lot of need there to work with folks well beyond the liberation of the concentration camps. The survivors were going to need a lot of help. So he chose to stay there. He actually chose to stay in Austria because his parents were there. He had the opportunity to emigrate. They offered him a visa to the United States before Austria was even captured by the Germans. And he chose to stay in Austria for his parents, who eventually died. But he got to be with his father in the concentration camp and was with his father when his father passed away. So he never regretted the decision to stay, even though, 3 years of his life living in concentration camps and some of the most atrocious conditions known that you could even dream of. But anyway, he calls these books his children as well. Who wants to suffer for me? Deanna, who's Deanna? I don't see her on here, Mary Jo. But cool, I'm glad to hear people are joining. It's funny you can read something, then all of a sudden kind of live it or see it. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's so funny. I love little signs like that. I absolutely love it. Lisa's on. Good morning, Lisa. Or she was on. I don't know. I see only 6 people around right now, but that's cool. I'm going to read that, John. Thanks. Yeah, man. It's a great Brendan, it's just, I'm sure I'm going to read it again. I have a tendency to read books that I enjoyed numerous times. Oh, Melissa, it's Man's Search for Meaning. I'll put a link to it again in the comments later. I tend to do that after the wrap up. I did it yesterday too, but I'll do it again today and put links to the meditations and everything else in there. I've rambled on more than long enough. I hope everyone is having a great morning. I hope everyone got as recharged by yesterday as I did. It was amazing. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It's going to carry me for quite some time. And hopefully soon I can tell you about some other things that all my reading and introspection and New Seeds of Contemplation is the Thomas Merton book I'm reading now. So I'm going to do a little of that reading today too, as well as the other things I talked about. Led me to do something yesterday that hopefully a few days from now I'll be able to tell you about. But it really, again, actualization of potentiality. So we'll see how this actualization goes. But yeah. So check out the rest of our day, our schedule. I'm going to post again in the comment feed, our peer helpline if you need any additional connection, assistance, anything like that. You can give us a call. All the virtual mutual aid groups, things like that. We're doing things on Zoom. You can call into. We have steps on how to use Zoom, things like that. Our weekly schedule, I forget who's up. So Brian will be up at 11 with the meditation today. Lisa does something, I forget what time it is today. Lisa, if you're still on, maybe you can throw that out. Get Right, I think, is today. 2-ish? Anyway, check the schedule and we'll post it again. And then Yana should be on at 5:30 today to wrap us up with some reflections too. And like I said, if you need to, give us a call. We're here. Tomorrow, I'm going to start the new half marathon training program. So I'll post a link to that too. It's going to be the intermediate one this time. So tomorrow is going to start a 30-minute cross train. And I usually cross train with kettlebells, but you can do walking, swimming, biking, whatever. If it's nice out, maybe we'll bike tomorrow. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday run, Fridays a rest day, Saturdays a short run, and then Sundays a long run. So that's a new schedule, but I'll post that too. And that's going to start tomorrow. So, hey, I'm getting sick of hearing my voice. I can only imagine you probably are too. So I'm going to wrap it up. And yeah, it's really cool, right? That quote, I like that quote too, Melissa. Oh, thanks, Mary Jo. Thanks for joining me. Lisa's at 2 o'clock. Okay, cool. I thought it was. Awesome. Thanks for joining me, guys. Thanks for starting the day with me. I really appreciate it. You guys keep me going. And I love you all. I will see you soon. I will respond to your comments very shortly. Thanks, guys. Have an awesome day. Peace.